Hi, I'm Sam.
And I'm Samri.
Welcome to the Lines Between the Stars podcast. We sat through Cowboy Bebop live action.
Most of it.
Most of it. I got kind of tired of it. I'm like, I don't think I can watch the rest of it.
I didn't want to force him to watch
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
You seemed like you were being tortured.
Yeah. I was like, oh, God.
You were already checked out. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm just watching it by myself at this point.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, do you wanna just like
Yeah.
stop watching this?
Yeah, because I was kind of like just checked out. Because, like, in my opinion, and I think this is an opinion for a lot of people, Netflix is showing both Cowboy Bebop live action and Cowboy Bebop the anime.
Yeah.
Why don't you just watch the Cowboy Bebop anime? It's kind of like a better like narrative. It's kind of like a better show. And the live action tries to be the anime, but doesn't do as good of a job. And we have the anime right there, like, just like one thing away. When you look at Cowboy, if you search up Cowboy Bebop and you see the two together, you can just hit the one with the anime. But then there's like, the whole like people who like who kind of look down on animation, so that's what this show is for, right?
I mean, I don't think it's because they look down on it.
No, it's people who straight up look down on animation.
Oh.
Yeah, there are people who don't take not like there are a lot of people who still think they're like, oh yeah, like cartoons, that's for kids.
I guess, yeah.
You were pretty on that like before we started dating too, like until I started showing you like other things. You're like, anime's for kids, and I'm just like, let me just show you this one where like these like people are just murdering each other and there's blood everywhere.
Yeah, that's the Higurashi.
Yeah.
We have an episode on it as well.
Yeah.
But I think you're a bit biased in favor of the anime.
Yeah.
Because you grew up with it.
Yeah.
And you love it. You love the aesthetic of anime in general.
Yeah, animation, especially like 90s animation, that's like actually the one that I like the most, because I think like it's like a nice cool blend of like it's the peak of animation before they went digital. So it's when they used like cell shading, like they used cell shades where they like they would have like the frame and they would put like a cell shade made of like to like on top of it, like over and like on top of it to get like color and stuff like that, right? And
it's all black and white though, right?
No, not all black and white. It's all color. Like different panels are colored, and they actually like painted each frame, like frame by frame. And it's really cool, and it's like really cool. It's like before they just made everything digital, and like the '90s was like. The 90s was like before they had digital effect. I mean, Cowboy Bebop was actually like they kind of blended some digital effects. So it was the very early stages of digital effects, right? So, but it's still kind of like, oh, you have like people who like hand drew all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And like
sounds very tedious.
It was very tedious. It's super tedious, but like you kind of respect it because of it, because they didn't have any other options. You know?
Yeah.
So that's why like it's kind of like, oh, it's cool. And out of like a lot of anime, Cowboy Bebop's like one of those animes that's like it has aged very well. I can show it to you today, like compared to like other anime made out of that time period. I could show you Cowboy Bebop and you can still enjoy it and it still looks good.
Yeah, because it's not misogynistic. It's not very like it kind of lets the audience gender bend whatever character they want.
Yeah, they
especially
can kind of,
Ed. Or whatever.
I mean, like there's a bunch of discussions on that. Like, like, oh, is Ed non-binary? Is Ed like a girl or boy?
Yeah.
And I'll be real, like, you know what? Maybe in today's standards, Ed would be non-binary, because back then we sure didn't know what non-binary was back then.
Yeah.
There was even like a episode with a trans individual. I don't know if it was done well or not in today's standards. Yeah, there was.
Which one?
There was like a character that was like a sexy guy, and Faye was talking to them, and then like turned out that they had a female bot. They were hermaphrodite, I think. So they had both male and female genitalia.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
There's a lot of you don't remember. You don't remember. I think we had this because I remember this is a long time ago. I don't know if your opinion is still the same on this or not, but you're like, I don't rewatch anything.
Yeah, I
and
don't.
I was like, oh, well, what if you forgot? You forgot. And I was like, what if you forget things? You're like, oh, I don't forget.
You're like, remember when you said this?
Yeah.
So, and I think the other thing why it's timeless is because the cast is pretty diverse, or like not the main cast of the animation, but the background characters.
Yeah. And also, babe, this is something that I don't know if you are aware of this, but the makers of of Cowboy Bebop made Carol and Tuesday.
Oh.
You know the Carol and Tuesday,
okay.
the sci-fi one that's like about the girls.
I think you've mentioned that, but I forgot.
Yeah, you forgot. I think you didn't really. Cowboy Bebop wasn't in your brain at the time. But the makers of Carol and Tuesday are the same makers as Cowboy Bebop.
Oh, another recommendation for the audience, Carol and Tuesday.
Yeah, so like I
really chill.
Yeah, and it's like it has a black female character, which you're like, wow, she's black.
Yeah, because you rarely see a black
and
they had female character.
Yeah, and they had a lot of diverse, like they had like a quite like diverse cast, and they show diverse, and like I think that team like does go out of his way to like try to make their like worlds more like they seem more worldly,
Yeah.
They seem more worldly, and this in Cowboy Bebop's actually one of those things that like actually did better in the Western audience than it did like locally in Japan.
Probably because of
like
how worldly they are.
How like international
and advanced for their time.
Yeah.
Because it was made in 98.
Yeah. By the way, it was really funny. So the reason why they got published is because they showed like the picture of the spaceships, and then they told like the producers like, we're gonna make it like Star Wars. Oh. Because the producers wanted something like Star Wars, right? And so like the this was when like episode like Phantom Menace came out in Star Wars, and then so they made Jet's ship look similar to like the Naboo fighter from Star Wars, and they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna make this like Star Wars, and instead they made like a space cowboy, like a space western pretty much.
I'm seeing or like hearing all these themes of directors of shows pretending that it's something else to trick the people with the money. The men with the money, and then they switch it up.
They lie. Yeah. And they're like, well, you've already paid me the money, so what are you gonna do?
Yeah, they're risking like.
But then But then they make something good out of it.
Yeah, that's true.
And they're like, well, what are you gonna do? Fire me and lose out on the money, or you want to continue doing this and then at least feel like you're gonna get something back?
Yeah, trick old men into
making woke stuff.
Yeah, exactly, like progressive art.
Yeah.
That's basically what artists have to do.
Mm-hmm. And like. Overall, like there's a lot of, and there is a cool like jazz soundtrack. This it's the inspiration for lo-fi music.
Really?
Yeah, like people like what you see all these lo-fi artists, and you want to see like you look at like who they're inspired by. They're like, oh, we're inspired by Yoko Ono, who made the soundtrack for Cowboy Bebop. Like Yoko Kano's name appears in like all these inspirations for people who make like lo-fi music. And like like that sort of vibe that's like hip hop or like like jazzy sort of feel that's not made by a black person. Right? It's because Yoko Kano is a Japanese woman. Right?
Wait. I thought she passed away.
No, that's the writer. The writer.
Also, the writer and the musician
they're both women.
They're both women.
Yeah.
Wow. This is pretty progressive then, because women are usually not in anime, right? Especially at that time?
Yeah, at that time it was less, but now it's a bit more. But yeah, like, it's still a male-dominated, like, sort of, like, thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Yoko Kano is the artist. It's really cool seeing like interviews with her too. You know, she's like she makes things based off of the feeling for each character. You know, and yeah, it's like it's like that's really cool. You know, it's really cool, and she's
Yeah.
like like most people. She's highly regarded in like the anime world, and even as like just music world, people know who Yoko Kano is.
Interesting. There's a lot of harmonic. Like, okay, when I hear her music, it's definitely not made by a black person.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no I guess soul to it.
I mean, there is.
It's not
It's a
something
different
you
soul.
can describe.
It's a different
Yeah,
soul.
it
It's
is
a different soul. Like
It
it's.
is.
I wouldn't say it's soulless. It's just like it's not a black soul making it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not a soul that's like
It's not a soul that has 20 years of like 30 years
Oppression.
of
Yeah.
oppression behind it. It's a bit more. It's
more of the
it's more
creative
free.
type.
It's more like creative type. I'd say it's like it's free sounding. You know, it's like free. You know, it's a different tone. You know,
that's
it's a
what it
different
sounds
tone.
like.
Yeah,
to you?
yeah. It's like more like you know, like it's kind of like someone just letting loose and doing whatever.
It's more of a happy tone, I guess.
Yeah, it's
instead
more-
of like a
You know,
sorrowful.
yeah, sorrowful.
The blues.
Yeah, the blues.
Yeah.
You know.
My wife left me before
Yeah.
for my truck or whatever. I don't know. That's basically.
I can't fuck my wife, so I might as well try to fuck my truck.
Yeah.
Uh,
But yeah, so that's at least that's my impression.
yeah.
Um.
But yeah, Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah. It was written by a woman, which
Yeah. The head writer was a woman. Like
The
one
head
woman.
writer.
Yeah.
so which is very important to know because the live action was super
Cringe.
disappointing and like so tropey.
Yeah.
Like with like everything when it comes to like the strong black woman
Yeah.
trope,
Mm-hmm.
the sex symbol black man.
Yeah.
And-
there's also
oh
like
my
the
gosh.
strong white women trope too, you know?
White one, really?
Yeah, like strong just
Oh, the
female
lesbian
lead.
woman?
No, not the lesbian woman, just like Faye in general, like how they treat a strong woman character versus
I didn't think.
anime
Wait,
and
I don't think she's white.
well, like
Isn't she mixed? I
you
don't
know,
know.
the female lead character.
I
Female lead character that's supposed to be strong. Is what I'm saying, you know?
Yeah.
Like she like swears a lot. Like I'm pretty sure in the anime, she didn't swear nearly as much as like the one in the live action
Oh,
show.
okay.
You know, like for
I mean,
example,
does she really swear in the live action?
she swears a lot in the live action. She's like, "Oh fuck you," you know.
Oh.
You know, like you know. You know, oh that asshole, you know, like she
yeah,
swears a lot.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Right? You know, she says a lot of profanities, and people are like, I don't remember Faye like saying all these like profanities in the anime.
Oh.
You know, or like you know, it's just kind of like, it's like a different tone. I think it's just like Western tone versus Asian versus like Japanese like writing tone. You know, like sassy woman is different in both culturally. Right?
So what's sassy Asian woman like?
Like Faye, like because like Faye had a different vibe. Like I don't want to get into like writing details because I don't know specifically. It's just mostly a feel. Like it's just mostly a feeling. But like Faye in like the anime was. She wasn't because the thing is with Faye in the live action, she's just gun woman. With like you know she's just kind of like gun woman and like fighter alongside with like Jet and Spike.
Okay.
In the anime, she has a different skill set. She's better at like talking to people. She's better at like talking to people and like tricking people than Spike and Jet are.
Oh yeah, I mean she did demonstrate that in the live action too.
Yeah.
Remember when she was like dancing with that
But that's a
the guy
flashback.
without the
That's a flashback though.
flashback?
Yeah, she said that. She said that as a flashback.
But she did that though.
She did that, but she wasn't like it's not a continuous thing that she does throughout the series. In the anime, you see her as working, or she did do the thing as like pretending to be a rich person, But then like when she teams up with Jet and Spike, she stops doing that. She just becomes like gun person. But like in the anime, it's like, oh yeah, like she's a casino worker. She's doing, and a lot of it has to do with like her feeling that she has no identity. Therefore, she's able to fake being someone else very easily because she herself doesn't have a sense of identity. Right. I could say that like they don't play that up as much with.
Let's give our listeners some context of the show.
Yeah.
So it's based in the future where like
Yeah.
people have moved to other
Planets, there's colonies. The people live on Venus. People live on Mars.
Yeah.
And Earth is like actually destroyed because they don't. I don't know if they mentioned this in live action, but like there was an accident that they have faster than light travel with these stations where they fling people off to like different parts. In the anime, they don't tell, and here's the thing, in the anime they don't really tell you straight up everything. You just kind of see it and you infer from details. So like Faye was in like you saw like Faye got into an accident and went to cryo sleep. And that accident is actually the reason why Earth is destroyed.
Oh, okay.
Because like the orbital station around Earth blew up and all the fallout came down on Earth, like onto Earth, and like it like messed up everything. That's why like and Earth gets like hit by like multiple meteorites. So like it's like everything's no one lives on Earth because it's almost unlivable.
Interesting. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Even from the live action, like they don't really mention that either.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like in a lot of things in Cowboy Bebop too. Is like you can miss a lot of things because they are very like vague and they're like, oh, you figure the audience should figure it out.
Yeah, and also the relationship between the characters is also vague.
Yeah, because like in Cowboy Bebop, I wouldn't say that like they're friends. No one in Cowboy Bebop is friends. They're like pretty I would call them more like they're coworkers.
Yeah, they're like mercenaries.
Yeah, they're mercenaries because like in the end of the anime, it ends with everyone splitting up. Like no one's together. Like no one's together again. But it's not like an angry split up. They all like split up on very good terms. For the most,
Yeah.
They split up like they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. You have your own life to do, right?
Yeah.
While in the live action, it's kind of building up to the whole like, oh, I hate you so much, and then we split up because of our differences, sort of thing,
Oh yeah. So, okay, so in the anime, there's Julia.
Yeah.
Who's the blonde white
woman.
woman.
She's like this blonde white woman. She's a blonde white woman.
She's
like
the main love interest.
Yeah, she's the main love interest. In the anime, she appears in like 2 episodes and like maybe appears in like 1 or 2 flashbacks throughout the series, right? She doesn't appear very much, but she's like really built up as being like this amazing person, right?
Yeah.
And when you meet her, she's like, you can tell that like she is like a complete badass who like don't need no man to like do anything. But they didn't have to show any of that, right? They kind of just like built her up, and just like the quick interactions you had with her is like, yeah, you get what she's all about. Like you're like, she lived a lot, like when Spike was dead for like 3 years, she was like on the run on her own. And when she comes back, she's still on her own. She doesn't have any friends. She didn't have any like friends or anything like that with her.
Yeah.
But like and you're like, oh dang, like yeah, she had to like run off. She couldn't save the day or anything like that. But she was able to survive in this like kind of world where it's like where these cowboys are like, it's like a dog eat dog world.
Yeah, and she was running away from
Vicious
from
the syndicate,
like
the mafia,
Yakuza,
pretty much. Yeah, like the Yakuza. Yeah, I
don't know what the equivalent would be in the U.S.
Yeah, but like they were the Red Dragon Syndicate in the anime.
Yeah,
shortened to the Syndicate in the live action show.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And Vicious is like Spike's rival. He's like a lot of their relationship can be kind of like inferred through flashbacks. Like they hate each other at the moment, but they seem to have been friendly in the past, maybe. And they're also like compared with each other a lot.
Yeah, and Vicious also actively tries to kill Spike.
Yeah.
On multiple occasions.
Mm-hmm.
But Spike is not trying to kill Vicious.
No, he's not.
At least in the anime.
Yeah, in the anime, because he's like, he just doesn't want anything to do with Vicious anymore. He doesn't want anything to do with the Syndicate. He he's like, and he kind of like has like a bit of respect for them, you know. He's like, well, I'm not gonna, and he's also like on one man versus an entire like organization. I'm not gonna try to do anything. Right?
Yeah, makes sense. He just wants a peaceful life.
Yeah, being like
after
a cowboy.
He left the crime lord organization.
Yeah, he just wants to be free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in the live action,
he's like I'm gonna get revenge.
Yeah.
She tries to kill Vicious in episode 1 and like reveals that he's alive to Vicious.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, okay, so also another thing I want to mention before we go on to Julia is how the live action, part of why it was anticipated is because the main actor is an Asian man. They got
a black guy to be Jet, you know. They're like, oh, this has a diverse casting, you know, and Stephen Chow is like Stephen Chow was a actor back in the day, and like he kind of was quiet for a while, but then like is kind of having resurgence back up again.
He was in
Harold and Kumar. Okay. It's kind of weird like seeing him in like a serious role for me personally. Because he's like a comedy. It was like, you know,
you grew up with him
being in like comedy roles rather than like serious action roles.
How do you feel like his the Harold and Kumar whatever, did it like improve your view of Asian
guys?
Yeah.
It gave me a viewpoint that Asian guys can be complete dumbasses too. You know, which was actually kind of refreshing instead of being like the nerd, you know, like just being nerds, just seeing two Asian guys being dumb as shit, you know. I think that's always important too.
Okay.
You know, you gotta have like the equal treatment, you know, treatment, you know.
Were they like playboys?
No, they were like stoners.
Oh.
They were like stoners, and like a lot of them was just trying to like, you know, they're going to White Castle because they want to get, you know, they want to eat a bunch of food after like eating a bunch of weed, smoking a bunch of weed. And then like in the second movie, Harold Kumar 2, it starts out with them going to the airport because they want to go to Amsterdam so they can smoke like weed legally.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Dating the movie a bit because like weed, now you don't have to leave the country to smoke weed legally now.
That's true. The dispensaries are everywhere.
Yeah, you know.
At least in Washington State.
But yeah, like but overall,
Julia.
like, yeah, Julia. So in the live action show, she's played up as like a damsel character.
Yeah.
She really can't do anything on her own.
Yeah, and actually there was also another character first episode in the anime version where like this white woman pretends to be pregnant.
Yeah.
But like she defends herself, she shoots.
Yeah, she's not even white. She's not even white in the.
She's Spanish.
She's like Spanish in the anime, and like she pretty much like she and her husband are smuggling like red eye, which is like this drug. And at the twist at the end of the episode is that she gets shot in her belly, but what's spilling out is not blood, but this drug.
Yeah,
so
it's red.
Yeah, and so she's like, oh, she wasn't pregnant. She was pretending to be pregnant to hide it, to bring it. And they changed her backstory because she's like poor. She's like a poor girl trying to make it to Mars in the anime with her husband. And you get the feeling that she's actually the brains of the operation while her husband's the muscle. In the live action, they change the storyline so that that this woman is like a rich girl trying to escape her dad.
Yeah.
And like it loses out because it's like
Yeah.
a lot of her character in the anime was like, oh, I don't know what Mars is like. Mars must be like this amazing place, right?
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it would make sense for someone to like who hasn't visited this thing, thinking that like their problems would go away if they go to like the place where all like the rich people are, right?
Yeah, but in the live action, she was just a naive girl who was sheltered, and she's in love with this like
the drug
poor
guy.
guy or whatever.
And like she doesn't fight. She doesn't like fight back anything against like any assailants.
She's just cowering the whole time. And
yeah,
it was just like, wow.
It's like, oh boy, like because like that was one where I was like, okay, let's watch the first episode of the live action and then watch the first episode of the anime, just to see them like compare the two, right?
Yeah,
and I think it's a good thing we did that too, just so like we're like, oh yeah, just because I remember it's like, oh yeah, and we got to see like the differences. And then half the episode is focused on like the Vicious Julia plotline. And I think I've said this before or a little bit earlier. Vicious and Julia don't appear that much in the Cowboy Bebop anime.
Yeah.
But in the live action show, they show up at least every episode.
Yeah. And in the anime, they're not shown together.
No.
They're never shown together. But in the live action, it's like Vicious is holding her captive as a sex slave or whatever.
As his wife or something like that. And like she's like trying to escape, but she's
she's in love with Spike.
Yeah, and like she doesn't do anything, you know. Apparently at the end she takes over the syndicate, but like, you know, us watching her, like we don't really care about live action Julia.
Yeah, no.
Honestly, like I feel like I could have enjoyed the live action Cowboy Bebop a lot more if Julia and Vicious were like not in the show as often.
Yeah.
Because like here's the thing, so Vicious in the anime has like white hair and stuff. He's an anime character in the anime, right? And when you try to do that outfit in real life, it doesn't work. Like the actor has like this really kind of like shitty like hair dye or like white wig, one of the two, and it doesn't match his like the rest of his face or body. You know,
it makes his face.
It's so weird. Every time I see him, I chuckle a little bit. I'm like,
you're like,
I'm like, oh,
yeah.
And here's the thing. I think actually with Cowboy Bebop, with Spike, Jet, and Faye, I think that's fine. I actually think that's okay. Like, it's not as good as the anime, but it's serviceable.
Yeah.
You know, it's a season 1. You know.
There's not going to be
a season 2, but like, you know, it's like whatever.
You think the actors work well with each other?
Yeah, I think they're okay with each other, you know, like, you know, I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was like it wasn't insulting or anything like that.
And you thought
I think
good?
Jet's pretty good as a casting choice for it all. Like I think they're all actually okay like casting choices. But like Vicious and Julia just honestly just ruined the show for me because it just ruins everything. It just like taints everything else in the show.
Yeah.
And it's so much like because the episodes in Cowboy Bebop the anime, they're 20 minutes long. And so they're shorter, they don't have to fit as much. But like in the Netflix shows, each episode is like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh god, and they like bloat it out with like the Julia plot and Vicious plot.
Yeah.
And a lot of it too, I think it has to do with keeping things cheap and so allows them to reuse the same sets. Because they reuse that bar over and over again in a lot of the episodes. Every time they go back to the Julia Vicious episodes,
that's true.
They have that same city set because they keep using the Vicious Julia episodes. You know.
So it's set on Venus.
Somewhere in Mars somewhere. But like another thing that's different about the anime, the live action, that to think about is that the anime has a lot of different locales. They're on Venus, they're on Earth, they're on Mars, they're on like space colonies. They're like doing they like jet goes to like this like grasslands plane where he's like flying like airplane jets.
Okay.
You know, like it's a lot more varied in terms of like backgrounds and stuff like that. Though in the live action, it's all like the same place, kind of.
Okay.
You know, they always seem to be on the same planet.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's mostly because like this show is made on a budget. And like they have to save money. They have to find ways to save money.
Yeah. I did like the vibe.
Yeah.
And the costumes and
Yeah,
stuff was
yeah,
pretty
costume
cool.
designs. I'll say that like there are people who are like, "Oh, we don't like Faye's new outfit." I was like, Faye's outfit's fine. Faye's outfit's like, and it works. You like, you know, it's Faye. Like, I can look at it and be like, yeah, that's Faye. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
And like, it's you know, and what you're not gonna have like this really super skimpy clad outfit, and like the actress isn't like you have to, for the most part, like think of the actress's like comfortability in like
because she would have to
shoots.
wear like really short shorts.
Yeah.
And like really like low like
body makeup too, along with like face makeup too, and that like takes a long time, you know, because like if you're showing a lot of skin, you also do stuff to like touch up the body as well, right?
Okay, yeah.
So that your muscles or your body like reflects off the light better or something like that.
Okay.
And yeah, it's just like, and you know, Jet's cool. You know, Jet was fine. He had like a little plot line with like he's like a divorced dad, you know, and I thought that was all right. You know, it wasn't like I was like, okay, that's neat. That's like differences that I would appreciate in the live action version. You know,
Yeah.
like. Spike, and the thing is like I like Spike less in the live action though because of Julia and Vicious. Because of this whole thing, it kind of just ruined Spike. It just kind of like ruined Spike.
Because it makes him
seem like kind of dumb.
He's more like shisty, you know, in the live action. Cause,
he's grimier.
Yeah, because he basically stole, okay, quote unquote stole. You don't steal people because they're not things, but she was originally with Vicious.
And he kind of like...
They sleep together.
They slept together. I mean, granted, Vicious was a psychopath, so like, he knows whatever. But like, in the anime, it's implied that, yes, Julia and Vicious were in a relationship, but like, it's like implied, right? And it's just like, it's not even like shown something like that. And it's like, Vicious isn't just like angry at Spike because of like her, like he's angry at her for going with Spike. He's not angry at Spike for taking her away. He's angry at Spike because he was always compared to with Spike. But in the live action, there's like it's mostly Julia.
Yeah, all these tropes of
and
like the
if
rich
Julia
son.
was, and here's the thing too, is that in the anime, Julia's a part of the syndicate. She's mafia woman. She's like, she's so like, it's,
she's not a prisoner.
Yeah, so you have these two like strong badasses who are like into this badass woman. Right? And you're like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But then you have like, you get like, in the live action version, they're simping over Julia, who's just a singer.
Yeah.
And it's just not as cool.
That's true. They like supposedly fall in love with her when they see her for the first time.
It's like, we're like, oh my god, it's terrible.
Yeah, there's no quality about her other than her looks and her voice.
Yeah, other than her looks and her voice and the fact that maybe she just cries every time something scary happens around her.
Yeah.
She has like the whole thing where she's trying to manipulate people behind the scenes so that she can like be free, and that's like it's like that's how I'll become strong, you know.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't vibe. It just doesn't vibe.
Yeah.
And like if it weren't for that, I think I would have liked Cowboy Bebop a lot more if it just was, because Vicious and Julia are like the worst parts of the show, and it's like I was especially like after like I was like, okay, I can kind of sit through this, but then like you had hit the episode, it was like the flashback episode, so it's all like Vicious, Julia, and Spike, and I'm like, I'm sick of this.
Even like their background story of like apparently Vicious and Spike are related. Not
No,
by
like
blood,
not
but
by
like
blood, but they're like blood.
the dad
they're
adopted
yeah,
Spike.
yeah, but like it's kind of like in the anime. I felt like Spike had more of like a code of a code of honor, you know. And
He
like
does in the live action.
he does in the live
too.
action too, but I feel like because like Spike doesn't really kill anyone that much, like like purposefully. If he has like the choice, I think he usually just like spares the guy. But then like the first episode, he just like kills the dude. He just kills guys, you know.
That's true. In the live action, he's way more murderous. Like he's just killing everyone. He's like, yeah, why are we bothering with keeping them alive?
Yeah, and then like Spike, it's usually like in the anime, they kill people accidentally.
Yeah.
You know, it's usually like if they do kill someone, it's like it's by accident.
Yeah, they're always losing their bounty
because
money.
they're always losing their bounty money, right? But it's not like Spike's fault specifically or anything like that. I mean, Spike is more laid back in the anime. You know, Spike is a laid back guy, right?
That's true.
With like a very like I don't care attitude, like an I don't care attitude. But like the I don't care attitude like comes off differently in the anime and live action, where like the I don't care attitude in the Western live action film, it's more of like a fuck you to the it's like a fuck you.
Yeah. It's more of like he's depressed.
It's like it's like punk fuck you, punk rebel, right?
But
in the anime, it's more of like, oh, I don't care. Like it's more like it's more like apathy in the anime, where he's like, oh, it is whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of because he's kind of like depressed because like he just had like everything he cared about like gone, and he's like, oh, whatever, right?
That's true.
Yeah, and then he also had scenes, where Spike's talking to like the Native American style like shaman seeker. He's talking about the spirits, and he's like, "Your star will fall."
Oh yeah, they don't have that.
They don't have that. It was a fun detail.
Unless it's going to be in the episodes we haven't watched.
Yeah, but it was really interesting seeing. Also, remember it's like not a main character, it's like a side character, the black woman in the live action one, and in the anime, she's kind of like running this like small shop, but she's like an informant she's like information, she's like an information dealer, and she like talks to Spike a bit, and she's cool like when she's like she's like a thicker like huskier woman, but like in the live action, she's like the owner of like a bar,
and then that's where Julia used to sing.
Yeah, that's where Julia used to sing, and they like kind of include her a lot more too. Like they try to like up her up, like being someone a bit more important, like a lot more important, right? In the anime, it seemed like she was more smaller time.
Yeah.
Which
or at least. It's very vague, so like maybe she was big time, like.
Yeah, but once again, like it's kind of like one of the things is like, Cowboy Bebop is like a show don't tell sort of story. They don't tell you anything; they just show you things.
Yeah, you have to infer.
You have to infer, which it's kind of like a thing of like respecting the audience's like intelligence. And then like the show, and then the live action show, I feel like it does not like respect your intelligence as much.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, I don't like tropes like with Vicious, the whole like the rich son of a
mafioso. Yeah, because in the anime,
super psychotic.
Yeah, because in the anime, Vicious is just a psycho like power hungry guy, but like it's not like. You don't see him related to any of the mafia members or anything like that, or have that chip on his shoulder.
Son of
he's just the important part of the story is that he is power hungry.
Yeah.
And he's scary, and like people underneath him are scared of him. That's why they follow him.
Yeah.
But in like the live action, he's just seen as incompetent.
Yeah, he actually more. He's just lucky with his plans.
Yeah.
In the live action, because like, in the anime though, it seems like he's actually smart.
Yeah, he like
and
plans.
clever.
He's
Yeah.
very smart and clever, and he plans things out like very methodically.
Yeah.
And like he like tricks them into being like, oh, I failed my escape. I failed my coup attempt. And then when they go execute him, that's when he reveals like he had more people like in his pocket, and like all the like his executioners turn on like on the organizations, you know.
Yeah.
And, like he escapes.
And
he has this crazy
bird.
crazy bird that may or may not be a robot that like frees him and stuff like that too, you know.
But in the live action, he actually gets mentored by his wife, by Julia, who's trying to get him killed.
Yeah, like he takes her advice. He takes her
Yeah.
advice. She's like, "Oh, why don't you do this?" You
Yeah.
know? And he's like, "That's a good idea. I'm glad I thought about it."
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
He's so dumb. Like he's dumb, and like no one respects him, and like which. Like, this character, Vicious, probably doesn't deserve respect, but, like, you know, like, when no one respects your villain, why would the audience respect the villain?
Exactly.
Like, I feel like the show doesn't respect Vicious, you know?
Okay.
You know?
True,
like, a lot, and here's the thing, too, is, like, you know, like, I feel like the show doesn't even respect, like, the live action show Cowboy Bebop doesn't respect Cowboy Bebop.
That's true. In the animation, every character was pretty, like, they can stand out on their own. Like,
yeah, and like the characters, even though like they did goofy things, they took their like lives pretty seriously, all things considering, you know. I like there's people who like complain about like, you know, at least in Cowboy Bebop, they make a lot of quips and jokes and stuff like that. Right? And like some people complain about that. I don't think it's that much of a deterrent, but it's a different vibe, you know.
In the anime?
No, they make more jokes and quips in the live action. It's like, oh fuck, you know, like there's a part where like Spike is like kind of putting on the moves of the pregnant girl in the first episode, right? Where he like picks up her stuff, kind of is like kind of suave, cool guy. So in the first episode in the live action, he's doing that suave, cool guy, only to be interrupted by Faye. She's like, "That's super dumb," right? Like, does that actually work on anyone? You know?
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's like. Are they like dissing on like Spike, like, you know, like a thing that was like, oh yeah, part of like Spike's character?
Oh, okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Like it kind of like has a disrespect to like its own like source material, you know?
Yeah, that's not a good look.
It's not a good look. It's not a good look, and it's kind of like, oh yeah, why don't we do it? And I don't, because we both watched Cowboy Bebop before this. We don't have the viewpoint of someone who hasn't watched Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah.
But from what I've heard, like people who haven't watched Cowboy Bebop are kind of bored by when they watch it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. They're like, what's going on?
They're like, what's going on? Like it's really slow. Like the episodes are pretty slow, while like the anime, I mean the episodes are shorter too. So it's like everything's like faster.
Yeah.
You know.
You can't really do super short live action though.
Yeah, you can't, because like live action shows have to at least be like 40 minutes long.
Yeah. I'm not sure why though.
Yeah, well, for anime it's because it's like expensive to make that.
Oh yeah.
It's expensive.
They don't want to
make.
draw
it's
like paint.
It's like almost slave labor at this point of like animators of like trying to make each frame by frame, even nowadays too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because there's some people who like do digitally, but some people are like, oh, you still have to draw like certain things by hand, and then you have a digital team work on it afterwards, you know, rather than having it all be digital, which would save a lot of money. Because there's a lot of like animation technologies that exist to like make your lives a lot easier, but then like in when you do it by hand, that's like hard. I mean, this is like a digital art versus analog art sort of discussion. Yeah. But like my experience with art, like if they just went full, like, because I know the anime industry does a combination of like of physical to digital, but if they just did full digital, they'd save a lot more time.
Interesting.
But it's just that like the old people like are used to doing things analog, so they don't want to change.
I would think they're all replaced by now.
No, they're not all replaced by now. A lot of them are like still there.
Oh, like from the 90s?
Yeah, from the 90s and like 80s even. The people from the 70s and 60s are probably dead.
Well, they'll be like... That would be like 40 years ago.
Yeah, I mean it's a whole problem in like we could talk about like the older population in Japan versus the younger
They're
population
not
in Japan.
dying out.
Yeah, they're not dying out. Well, heck, you have the average life expectancy of Japanese people are like being like super high. And they have a whole thing of like there's more older people than younger people in Japan. So
Oh, okay.
it's a whole thing. We can get to that. In a
Okay.
different time.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just kind of like a weird thing of like the live action. I was just like, oh man, I hate it because of just Vicious and Julia. They really just ruined the show for me, and it's I mean, it's a shame that like the show is the show gets canceled. Oh yeah, and then they show Ed at the end, and like I showed you the clip with Ed.
Yeah.
Ed is a character. She's like the hacker
They
of the
are,
group, or they.
'cause at least the actors.
Yeah, the actors is they. But Ed is like a character who is like kind of like a weirdo little kid, 10-year-old, like
Yeah.
they're like 8 or 10 or something like
Yeah.
that, and they're like a genius hacker.
Mm-hmm.
So the live action version shows the end of like Ed appears to say like, "Oh, hi Spike, I have a job for you," but it's so cringe and terrible because they don't have a kid playing as Ed. They have like a 20-year-old individual playing Ed, and you're just like, "Oh no!"
Yeah, I think it's because of the Panini that they can't get a kid actor.
Yeah,
because it's just now that the vaccine is out.
And like child actors are like harder to deal with. There's more attention needed because you need like not only you have the child actor, you need like a coach for the child actor too to like help them out because they're younger. They don't know acting as well. And there's good child actors, right?
Yeah.
That's just like that's because that child actor is really really good.
Yeah, talented.
Yeah,
I'm
talented.
sure they could have found someone.
But it's kind of like one
they
of those
decided
things.
not to, or like okay, they mentioned Ed in one episode where like Spike gets brain kind of washed by this
robot.
Was there an anime?
They had an anime episodes where they go into a digital. They did like an
Really?
They went to a digital like setting, but it was different. It was more like they're exploring the internet rather than they exploring like a flashback memory thing.
And that's when you find out that Julia. Anyways,
it's
we none of us like Julia or
we hate Julia. And they're in every episode.
Yeah.
They're in the episodes more than Faye is.
You can basically tell that the live action was written and directed by men. Yeah. And the way they depict women is very poor. Yeah. You can tell that like women didn't have much say in it. Because they also had this like scene that I think was just like for the gaze of men. Yeah. Where Faye and another woman have sex, and I'm like, okay, this.
Whatever.
And I feel like men write in these things in a way to like assuage women and be like, oh, here's your women power.
It's also like it's a trope called queerbaiting.
Queerbaiting?
Yeah. Like, you like have like a
they're
queer,
all
like
good-looking women.
Yeah, like
having
queer,
sex.
Yeah, and it's like also like in some media there's also good-looking guys that look like they have like intimate relationships with each other.
At least in the West. In the West, they wouldn't have men.
Yeah, in Korean and Japanese stuff, they have more. They have more of that.
Manga and stuff. Yeah.
But it's just kind of a shame because the show's canceled after one season. Yeah. And it's like
I wouldn't want it to continue.
No, I would have been like, oh no. Yeah. I was like, I can't deal with more of this.
Yeah. It's just if you're gonna like I guess this show should show or like illustrate how it is very important to have women directing
Yeah.
and writing.
The soundtrack's good because they have Yoko Ono doing the soundtrack too for the live action. So
Yeah,
the soundtrack's good.
Yeah. I like the jazz music. Boom,
Yeah.
boom, 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 boom.
It's the same sound. It's the same soundtrack as like Cowboy Bebop. It was like the anime. You know, same person, same thing. Maybe a little bit. Maybe in some parts better.
It's a bit smoother.
Yeah.
In the live action.
Mm-hmm.
In the anime, it seemed like she was just mixing separate things that don't flow together.
Mm-hmm.
Well.
Yeah.
Like it's not blended well.
Yeah.
Like there's a harmonica and then there's like the trumpet or whatever.
You also don't remember it very well.
No. Like you had me listen to the soundtrack.
That's because I was skipping through it.
Were you like fast forwarding?
Yeah, I was going to multiple tracks. Because it was a video that had all the tracks on it.
Like they were playing multiple tracks at the same time?